So let me start with the questions. You want me to do a brief, like, intro?
No, you can
Whatever you want, Charles.
Uh,
Whatever
I'll
your
Give
heart
you the brief
desires.
intro. I mean, basically, study abroad, right? You
Yeah.
guys are excited about studying abroad, and in general, want to talk about like how to build the program, how to have more study abroad.
Yes.
For the
Yes.
chemical engineering department.
Yep.
All right, fine, great. I got it.
All right, so you got the intro. So question number one. Do you find that most students are aware of the study abroad programs? If not, what would you do to increase awareness?
So I would say I would probably put that at about 50-50
Okay.
in terms of study abroad awareness. And one of the most effective things that we do is actually what happened in your class, which was we have somebody who's running a study abroad program go to the class. And so if we want to increase awareness of study abroad, we can target BE courses or, in essence, probably the best part for study abroad is junior level coursework. But send somebody to the class, give a 5-minute spiel, and that's probably the most effective thing we could do.
All right, next question. Students often claim that study abroad programs are cost prohibitive. Do you believe this to be true? Also, are there any available ways for the programs to be cheaper or for the students to get funding for the programs?
So, that is correct. Study abroad can be expensive, especially for Wayne State students. And I know the college, though, does offer some scholarships to defray some of the costs of study abroad. For example, I think in Professor Tan's study abroad, the student has to provide travel to and from, but pretty much all the other expenses are covered. So, but anyway, I do know from the college perspective that there is support, and we're looking for ways to provide more support to students for study abroad.
All right. Do you see any major room for improvement within the current study abroad programs? If so, what would those be? You can just say no.
Can you give me something to work from here? I mean,
That's just a question.
well, you guys
Sure.
wrote the questions,
Sure.
That's
right?
fair.
So, for example, there's only, from what I know, there's no study abroad program that is only the chemical engineering students. Dr. Tan's is like a global engineering thing, and the other one for that goes to Austria, I think, is the
Mhm.
other one is
Yeah.
more broad-based in computers and chemistry as well.
Okay.
So, are there any plans to possibly like branching into specifically
That's
chemical
actually
engineering?
just a different question.
It's a different question. No,
Oh,
but
you
there's
can-
no.
okay.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, so right now, the study abroad program, the feedback we've gotten from at least Professor Tan's program has been overwhelmingly positive, and a very good experience for students. And we have not heard of any negative experiences. So, so in terms of the operation of the current program, seems to be running well. You know, in terms of improving, you'd like to have more variety for students, but that requires the investment of time in building relationships with those universities.
I think we kind of tackled 2 in 1 there, some efficient guys. Are there any ways to offer more study abroad programs within the engineering department? If no, why not?
Well, okay, so everything kind of comes down to resources, right? Whether it's time resources or money
Yeah.
resources. So for us to create another study abroad opportunity would require one of our faculty to invest time, right, to build out that program. So that would require them building a relationship with the university overseas, maybe relationship with some companies, which I know is what's done in the Chinese study abroad program. So you have to build those relationships first. So that takes time. And then you know, there is a resource constraint, right? So faculty time is valuable, right? So the question is, you know, do you compensate them for that time? So it's complicated.
All
Right.
right.
So we want stuff, but you know,
Costs money.
it's hard. You know, it costs. You know, it's all got to cost.
This isn't on the thing, but I have a question. So
Sure.
there's no study abroad. There's no way that like the study abroad would come from above beforehand. It's always done from the level of a specific professor building up the program, or it would never like higher up in the university, they would never make a relationship with another university that's open a study abroad program and then find someone to be able to run it?
So our university is not opposed to making decisions at the top level and letting it propagate down. But it's not clear that that would be the most meaningful experience for students, right? So faculty teach courses, right? So faculty are the owners of the curriculum,
Right.
right? And so one of your questions, you have something in there about a chemical engineering specific study abroad.
Mhm.
So who would know how to create that except chemical engineers? Like who would know like what the experience should be
Right.
than chemical? So we could have so the provost office could create it, but they don't know anything about chemical engineering.
Mhm.
So
Exactly.
they could have you visiting like, I don't know, like a cement factory, and then you'd be like, okay, like I could, all right.
Yeah.
Fair.
Right, so I think it really, the best experiences are faculty driven,
Right.
and because they're also, they're closer to students,
Right.
right? So one of the things that I have learned, sorry, long answer,
No.
one of the things I've learned over the years is that the closer you are to students, the better your decision-making process, because you're really getting, you really understand what it is that they want,
Right.
and the further you are away from students, the harder it is to make relevant decisions to the student experience. So,
Great.
okay, next question.
Alright. Holy crap, Victoria. U of M Ann Arbor has 40 College of Engineering study abroad programs. They don't have any chemical engineering specific programs, but they have programs that offer more for chemical engineers. Would the College of Engineering be willing to try to add more programs that are more chemical engineering based?
So, the answer is yes. All I need is somebody to say that they want to do it, and they would have the full support of the college to create that program. So,
Awesome.
and as far as U of M goes, one of the things that U of M is good at is being big. Okay, so the kind of money that flows around that place is very
Right.
different.
So my goal with my section was I was comparing like just 3 universities, our universities, U of M, and then Oakland, which is about the same size as us. So I was just kind of wanted to see like
Okay,
how like the study abroad programs in the College of Engineering kind of like compared. So that's
Okay.
why I compared
Alright.
to U of M.
so study abroad, you should know, is also one of, you know, from the dean, this is one of his high impact practices, right? Like, so the 5 high impact practices of college, and so one of them is this kind of experiential learning. The study abroad is part of that, so it's actually very highly valued. So,
What are the pros and cons of having a small study abroad program?
Well, it depends on what we mean by small. So if it's small by, you do study abroad and you have 10 students in your group, then the pro is people get to know each other well, and they get to know the person leading the study abroad well, so you get to build relationships. So that's the pro of being small. Now, if you're talking about being small, like overall as a
Overall.
group, then there's not really a pro to being small. There's a lot of cons though, and that is that you're not providing a broad range of experiences for different students. Like there's certain things you can't do, right, with a small study abroad program. So if there's like one study abroad, okay, that's your choice. That's what you're gonna, and you know, and so Eric, I think you went on study abroad, right?
Yep.
So you had a good experience,
Mhm.
but it wasn't necessarily chemical engineering, right?
Right.
It was just engineering. Okay, so that's kind of the con, right? You don't have more specialized experience.
Right.
What are the pros and cons of adding more programs?
Well, the pros are we engage more students, we give students more variety, and they get to choose things that are more relevant to what experience that they're looking for. I mean, the con is it all just costs money to do it, right? Everything is a resource-driven situation. So, but in terms of operationally, like there's no downside to students for us to have more study abroad.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. What is the College of Engineering's goal for their study abroad program? To take chemical engineering courses abroad? Extracurricular growth?
Well, I think one of the main, the main ideas behind study abroad is to have exposure to engineering outside of the United States, so that you can see engineering from a different perspective. You can experience different cultures. And so with engineering being a global profession, it's really important to understand how that works. So your work, you're not going to be, so if you have a job in Detroit, you're not only going to work with engineers from Detroit. So like GM, for example, has plants all over the world. So if you're working with engineers from say from Beijing, you need to understand something about their culture and understand something about the way engineering is done in China to be effective in working in this kind of multinational context. So anyways, that's one of the real strengths of doing study abroad.
Right. Do faculty have relationships with faculty of overseas institutions?
So the question is, or the answer is yes, many faculty do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Have you personally or know someone who has done a study abroad program? If so, what was the experience they or you had?
Okay, so I know a lot of students in chemical engineering have done Professor Tan's study abroad program. It's overwhelmingly been positive, so whenever he comes in to pitch study abroad, he's always got plenty of people willing to stand up and talk about their positive experience.
Mhm.
What, in your opinion, are the benefits of study abroad for students?
So I think I covered this, but it's exposure to engineering in a global context. It's exposure to different cultures. It's the ability to develop an awareness of how engineering is done in different cultures. And it's the opportunity to learn in an environment where you really it probably will not have that opportunity again in the future,
Yeah.
right?
You don't need to ask the last ones, you answered it.
Yay.
Cool.
Cool.
That was
I think
actually
about
That's
it,
it,
yeah.
15 questions?
Yeah.